everyone, and welcome back to Talk with Coach, the podcast where we deep dive into the realms of sales, leadership, and personal growth. I'm your host, Becca Goldsberry, an elite sales and leadership coach from Southwestern Consulting. I am excited to embark on another insightful journey with you today. Whether you're a seasoned professional aiming to sharpen your skills or an aspiring leader for knowledge and to help your company grow, this podcast is your compass to success. So join me as we explore the strategies, tactics, and mindset shifts necessary to thrive in a competitive landscape of sales and leadership and entrepreneurship. Get ready to unlock your potential, seize opportunities, and conquer challenges like never before. So buckle up and let's embark on this transformative voyage together. Welcome to Talk with Coach. So today I am excited to have my guest on today. And how we met is through the power of networking. So she got my name from one of her board members that is on the board with her with their Chamber of Commerce in Noblesville, Indiana. And she reached out, we set a coffee at Starbucks one morning, and I am serious. By the time an hour was up, I was like, I could keep talking to Neilia for hours. Like, we just clicked. We had such an amazing conversation. And I was like, okay, I got to get to know her better because she is a powerful woman. She knows what she wants. She's super successful and so nice. I'm like, okay, we're going to be best friends. And great networking partners. And so the last few months, it has been amazing getting to know her. And plus, she's helping one of my coaching clients, which I love referring fabulous people to my clients who can really help them in their business in different avenues that I cannot support. So I would love to share with you guys a little bit more about Neilia. So in 2005, she established Van Dyke, Brown and Associates, a bookkeeping and accounting practice in Los Angeles. In the last 20 years, she has served hundreds of businesses from Hollywood production companies to nanotech startups. We've seen what works. She's seen what doesn't work when it comes to running a successful company. In the 20 years since she's launched her business, Neilia has served as a trusted advisor to hundreds of business owners in diverse industries, including leadership and organizational development, film production, green building, architecture, and graphic design. She has extensive experience helping service-based business owners get their books organized and properly maintained, and enjoys consulting with her clients on how to grow and run successful companies. She believes everyone should own a business at least once in their life. Totally agree with you. And is a self-described small business evangelist. In 2019, she rebranded Van Dyke, Brown and Associates to what is now called the Business Builders to better reflect the way they serve their clients. In addition to providing bookkeeping and accounting, they now offer consulting services to help emerging and establishing business owners, building companies that will stand the test of time. So, Neilia Brown, welcome to Talk with Coach.
For having me. It's an honor to be here, honestly. I think the world of you, and I completely agree that, like, the minute we met, I was like, oh, I totally know you. Like, I know you. And it was just a wonderful chemistry.
I know.
Like, we were like, we need to hang out, you know? So I'm really appreciative
I
of
was like,
this.
when we're going to have purpose.
So I really appreciate this opportunity to speak with an expert such as yourself. I'm just so impressed with everything you've told me, and just it's very clear to me that that you are excellent in what you do. So it's always fun to talk to somebody who's an expert in their industry. Yeah.
Well, likewise, my dear. I know that the client that you are serving of mine loves you, and I know that you're really helping them, reorganize the bookkeeping and the financial aspects and all of those things. And I don't think when people start small businesses, they think about the excitement, the starting of the passion, right? Or maybe they're buying a business and a lot of times that back end stuff gets pushed to the backside. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Um, yeah, it does. Um, I find a lot of times business owners who are starting up um, try to bootstrap, and so they should. That's very important. You've got to conserve your resources, and your biggest resource is probably going to be your own energy, sweat equity. Um, but I have seen um, many clients that come on board who were doing the books themselves in something like QuickBooks and or Wave, and they attempted to do what was necessary. But I look at their balance sheet and I'm like, oh my God, this is going to take forever to untangle because they're not accountants. They didn't go into business to do accounting. And I don't blame them for, trying to do it themselves. And, but what I advise people is if you can, at least get a consultation with someone who can walk you through what the different accounts mean. And that will save you so much money in the end. So that's a big piece of advice that I have for new business owners.
Yeah, right. So, when I was really young, early 20s, I was always told there's always things, whether you're starting, as a solopreneur or inheriting a family business or, going to lead and, you're moving up into leadership,
Yeah.
there's certain pieces and certain people you need to make sure you're surrounded. A good CPA or a good accountant and bookkeeper is one, a good tax person,
Hmm.
a great lawyer, and a good financial advisor. They're like, if you have those set in place, you're in good shape, right? And
Yeah.
then I now throw in, um, you need a good coach or a great mentor to help you through to grow your skill set.
Yeah.
So those five people, I always feel like if you've got those around you, business and life are going to go good.
I think too, one of the my favorite thing, I love working with women who are starting their own business. It just speaks to me, and it's because I hope to be the person that I wanted when I first started my business. Because starting a business is really scary, and I would have loved somebody to consult with about various issues, things like client expectations and setting boundaries and how much professional development to invest in, those types of things. And I did very luckily. I had several great mentors. I mean, world class businesswomen. They were clients, and they just kind of took me under their wing, and I was very lucky in that respect. So if you're bootstrapping, you can tap into, maybe you have a family member or a friend who can help provide legal advice in that very beginning part. But as you grow, I couldn't agree more. You need to surround yourself with those experts because it can become very expensive if you don't down the road.
Yes,
So,
that's right.
yeah.
Yes. So make sure, right? That's where networking, I think, comes into play. Because if you can network and you build great friendships, you can have you know, some people kind of help you out as you're starting and building that business, right?
Networking to me is probably the number one thing a business owner needs to do to build their business. Um, I think a lot of times with Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and Zoom calls, which are perfectly appropriate, but sometimes they're used as a substitute for in-person networking. And I would advise to not lean on those so heavily. There is something special about meeting with somebody one on one and learning them. I always say your job during that conversation is to become a PhD in that person. So ask those questions, be interested in what they're doing. Ask about family and hobbies and that sort of thing. Really get to know them as people, not just as a potential referral. And I find that that is super effective. And we can talk about ways that like introverts can maybe accomplish that, because I know some people networking is really scary, you know. So I understand that
Oh,
as well.
well, I was going to say, let's talk about that because you're right. There's so many people. Me as an extrovert, COVID about killed me. Like that year of COVID where people were just not meeting in person very
Uh-huh.
much, like that was like torture.
Yeah, yeah,
But I know a lot of my friends who are not as extroverted
yeah,
were just like, oh, this is great. We'll just meet everybody on Zoom and we're good. And they've kept up with that over the last
yeah,
few years, right? And I'm like, no, I want to go see people. It's time to go, have coffees and lunch and, drinks or whatever the case may be.
yeah,
So share with me, Neela, what do you, because I know that is like the one business tip you tell everybody on how to grow your business is network,
yeah.
and in-person networking, especially for those who are introverted, those who might be a little shy to go out and meet new people, or those who don't know how to start those conversations. What's your advice to them?
The first thing I would say is if you're an introvert and you're going to a big event like a chamber luncheon or similar, walk in there knowing, I would say 75% of the people that are in that room feel just like you, especially if they came alone,
Mm.
because it's scary. How do you, if a group of people is talking, if you stand there waiting for them to invite you into the conversation, you're going to look like a creeper. And unfortunately, and I think we need more education in this area too. Unfortunately, people are not very skilled at seeing somebody in the periphery and inviting them into the conversation. So I would tell our extroverts,
Mm.
if you can do that, that would be very helpful. Um, but when you are in the buffet line or you're sitting next to somebody that you don't know at the table, ask questions about them. You don't have to say a whole lot in most cases. People love to answer questions about themselves and their lives and their successes and their family. So I would have some questions in your back pocket, maybe 5 to 7 questions that are your standard, so that if there's that lull in the conversation and the other person isn't really keeping up their end of the conversation, which is a pet peeve of mine, that's a real pet peeve of mine. Um, you have those questions in place and they're general enough that they would apply to any situation. So do you have children? Are you, what do you do outside of business that you think is fun? Are you a golfer? Those types of things, and preferably things that you have in common, might have in common with that person, like golfing. Do you golf? And if they say yes, and you're a golfer, you're off to the races, you know? And don't
Right.
don't worry about, oh my God, when am I going to get my pitch in? That's that's like, I would almost say that should be the last thing on your mind. Um,
Yep.
you want to leave that person with the impression that you care about them, and that if they
I agree.
referred someone to you, that you would take really good care of them. And also always ask what they're looking for. How can you, in your industry, how could you help them? And I feel like people are doing that a lot these days. I think they've got that memo. But there's still a lot of work to be done in that area. So have that attitude of being a servant. How could I serve you and your clients? Um, those are some very I think basic tips, especially with the one-on-one. Um, I would say also, if you are an introvert and you're somewhere and you're looking around and you see another wallflower, walk with confidence over to them, reach out with your hand, shake
Yep.
their hand. They will be grateful as heck that you did that. They will be
Yes.
delighted.
Yes.
You know, you're not probably going to get a cold reaction or a negative reaction. So, those are some of the tips.
Amen.
The other thing I would say too is, so when I first moved here from LA with my family, CPAs are typically a big referral source for me. And so I made it a mission to go meet with a bunch of CPAs. I just called them and said, "Can I come in and learn more about what you do?" And I always need people to refer to my clients too. Um, and this one CPA that I came into, and we just talked briefly in her office. It was a nice conversation. I used all those same tools that we talked about, and nothing happened initially, you know. And for a lot of these encounters, something may not come out of it, and that's okay. But in this case,
Absolutely.
her, it was like 5 or 6 years later, she referred me to a client who's now one of my anchor clients, you know? So you just never know. You gotta, you know, I know people use this phrase, you gotta plant those seeds. And, you know, some of those seeds aren't gonna get any water. But it's so important to plant those seeds. And um, if you can, with being uncomfortable, um, that is important because making those initial phone calls for most people is like terrifying. You know, I'm going to call a complete stranger and say, "Hey, can I come talk to you?" Um, but if you couch it in the idea that, yes, you know, you would love referrals, but the reality is that you also want to know about them. You want to know about what services they provide because they could be one of those people that you were talking about earlier that's on your team of experts or a client, you know, you can refer them. So those are some of the lessons I've learned over the past, I can't believe, 20 years. So
I
I've
love
rolled on.
I love it. Yeah. So you mentioned a couple things. One is when you were talking about serving and getting to know people first and not going in what a colleague of mine always calls it commission breath, right? Like don't go in to a conversation with commission breath because everybody smells commission breath and it stinks,
Yes,
right? So I
yes.
it's always gone to that urgent mindset and just like how can I help? How can I serve? So just going in instead of having commission breath, just being able to listen, and I think that's an art a lot of people don't have right now is the art of just listening to people.
And pay attention to them. Act like they're the only person in the room, frankly, because um, there's nothing makes me feel worse than when I'm talking with somebody and they're looking over my shoulder to see, you know, oh, you know, I can't use her. I don't, you know, so I'm going to move on. You never know how somebody might be able to serve you or you might be able to serve them in the future, even if your industries are really um, you know, disparate. You may have a client that's like,
Right.
"Oh, I'm getting married. I'm so stressed out about it." And you met a wedding planner that you absolutely love. And you can say, "Well, you know, I met this person and she seems really nice and very competent. So here's her number, you know, tell her I sent you." And that in turn also makes the business owner that you refer to feel good, you know, that you're thinking about them and you're thinking about what they might need and use. One thing I forgot to mention too, and it's so simple. When you're in a conversation with somebody, smile. You gotta smile. I have sat and had conversations with people who never smile one time, and they're not trying to be dour or unengaged or something, but the expression is what that gives. Those are the vibes that you get. And so I would tell my
Yeah.
advisory clients, really smile. And it doesn't have to be obviously like this, whacked out grin, but make sure you're
We don't need to test
like, stay away from the Stephen King character smile. Like, that's not good. But you are initially, you're going to feel like a grinning idiot, because it's for a lot of
drive.
people, it doesn't come naturally to smile, especially when they're talking business, because they're serious and they want you to understand that they're serious. And so that can be a trap. When you smile, um, I learned this actually cocktail waitressing. Um, when I first started cocktail waitressing, I was a good little cocktail waitress, and I was in really into like, okay, what do you need, and how can I serve you? What can I get for you? And cleaning dirty glasses, bussing them, like spending a lot of time doing that. I learned is when you smile, when you make a little conversation and spend more time with the customer than bussing glasses, your tips go really very high, And 'cause people like to have somebody friendly and smiling with them. And just it sounds so stupid, but um, when I'm smiling like this, um, I used to feel like I don't feel like that anymore, but I felt like I was a grinning idiot. And so looking in the mirror and seeing that isn't doesn't make me look like a grinning idiot, that was really helpful because I was like, okay, that's a completely reasonable face to have when you're talking with somebody. So excuse me,
No, you're good.
I'm gonna have a sip of
No,
coffee.
I love that. And so, what is the best business advice, Neela, that somebody has ever given you
Uh,
or that you've received?
First, in my business, I had that instinct that I needed experts in my corner, and that I would be open and needed to be open to any advice any expert could give me. You can't afford to be arrogant, especially in the beginning. You can be confident, but that's a different thing. Um, uh, yeah, the difference between confidence and arrogance is sometimes a fine line. I think sometimes people take confidence for competence, and so I tell
Mm,
my clients to look out for those people that they have a lot of shim sham, but really they're arrogant. They don't know a whole lot, and they're not interested in hearing your advice or your opinions or your input. Um, so that's something that I think is really good advice. But back to when I started my business, I was working with a bunch of different companies with executives that had to do with tech startups and film companies and who were CPAs and attorneys and those type of people. And I asked them to coffee. I just said, what um, what do I need to know about starting a business? Do you have any advice? And one of the things the tech CEO said was, listen, there's a temptation when you're beginning your business to think you have to do it all. Like it's all on you. And he said that's a big mistake. Um, you don't have to know how to do all the things. You just have to know people who do. And as I said in the beginning,
yes.
when you're bootstrapping, that can be a little more challenging to tap into those people. But I found after he told me that, if you, particularly as a woman, if you go to another woman and you say, I saw your bio or I met you last week and I was really impressed with your confidence and your the sense that you are incredibly competent, um, and say, I need help in this area. I'm really struggling with this. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to be delighted. If you take them to coffee, when you're starting up, a coffee is very affordable. You can put two or three coffees into your budget a week. Like that's not going to break the bank typically. And if it is, you probably need to think about your life choices. But, um,
Correct.
yeah. Like maybe you're not really set up to start that business just yet. Um, so that was really important information for me. Just always be open to asking for advice and um, always be willing to be a little bit vulnerable, with that person. Saying, I'm having trouble in this area and I'm really struggling and I could use some advice involves a lot of vulnerability because I think there's this myth out there that we're supposed to present this front to people that, we are totally competent. We're just killing it every day in every way, and most people can relate to having a struggle in your business with some aspect of it. So don't be afraid to ask the experts, and likely it
I,
won't cost you anything as long as you're open, willing to be vulnerable, and willing to buy a cup of coffee.
Absolutely. And then, I find it interesting. So as a coach, I find it interesting in, especially here in the Midwest, when I first started, 12, 13 years ago, coaching was kind of a new thing for the Midwest. People have
Yeah,
been, having
yeah,
their personal coaches for a long time out on the East Coast and the West Coast, but in the Midwest, people are like, why do we need a coach? Why do I need to pay
what is a
somebody to
coach?
tell me what to do? Well, they what is a coach? Like, I don't know what that is. And so, still to this day, there's people who are like, well, I can do it on my own. Or if I get a coach, that means I'm weak or I'm no good.
Right,
What most
yeah,
people don't realize is
yeah,
that what most people don't realize, the best of the best have business coaches.
yes,
Like, and you
absolutely.
can go
I can
down the
confirm that
road,
from
down the road.
experience.
And I'm just like, no, top producers are the ones who invest in themselves. And a coach doesn't say, well, this is what you got to do. Like, good coaches don't do that. Good coaches just like ask questions and try to help problem solve and
Hmm.
then maybe find some solutions on how to get you to the next level where you really want to
Yes,
be. So, what you're saying, like, there is this whole mindset that people have around asking for help and
I
thinking
know.
it's weak, but it's not. Brave, it's courageous.
It
You grow
is.
yourself. I don't even know how many times I've had clients that say, hey, thank you. You not only have you helped my business, but in learning how to communicate better, have a better life with my spouse, with my kids, with my
Yep,
friends.
because it all bleeds
It
over, doesn't it?
every
Everything
it
bleeds over.
does. And so people just need to have an open mindset and asking for help and
Yes.
reaching out to different resources. We can't do it on our own. We
Yeah.
can't all solve every problem. And if you think you can, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but
That's
you're going to run into
probably,
some big hurdles.
yeah, that you're in for some hard truths, probably. Um, yeah, that's the
Yeah.
other thing too. When you talk to somebody and they seem arrogant, they're trying to project confidence, but it comes off as arrogance. Um, it's not it's not warm and inviting, to have a conversation necessarily with those people. It can be interesting. Like sometimes if I'm talking to somebody and they're just you know lecturing and not caring about anything I have to say or whatever, it's fun to kind of psychologically kind of break them down, you know what I mean, in your own head, not out loud.
Oh, I do that. That's where my social worker degree come into play too. And I'm like, let's dissect this a little bit. And they probably don't realize that I'm just listening, dissecting things in my head that they're telling me. I'm going,
Yeah.
oh, oh. no, no, no. I'm so sorry. Like, I'm
Yeah,
sorry for your team, or I'm sorry for your spouse.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
don't do that. Go
yeah.
around.
It's like you really need
Yeah,
a coach and you need me to help you, but you will never ask because you're
yeah,
unwilling to admit that you ever
exactly.
don't know something. You know, that's a really dangerous
Yeah.
place to live in business and in life, you know. So,
I was gonna say, I don't know about you, Neela, but every time that I go seek for advice, or, because I have my own coach, and so every time I'm working with my coach or my team leader, and I'm like, I am so stuck. Like, what am I not doing right? I'm like, that, like, now we grow to the next level, right? We take that next step up. So because sometimes we don't always have the foresight to be thinking of all the right scenarios, or maybe we forgot something, or
yeah.
you're right, I need to go back. Sometimes it's just going back to the basics of life too.
Yeah, sometimes life can get really complicated. Lots of work deadlines. Maybe you're doing construction at home. I'm describing my own life. You know, your kid is a teenager and they're being typical teenagers or what have you. You know, life can
Yeah,
be, like you said, it can be drinking from a fire hose sometimes, and it's really easy to get stuck in this place. And I find myself doing it too of this is my forever. This is what life is going to look like forever. And then I get really worried, you know, oh my God, how am I going to have the stamina to keep up this pace, you know? But I have to remind myself, most cases, when you are in that frenzy, it will come to an end at some point. You have to be
mm,
proactive about it, and you have to be mindful and strategic about how you handle those things. But I think it's super important to remember that things change, you know, and get comfortable with that because that's
absolutely.
uncomfortable
So
too.
when Yes, absolutely. So when you are in that crazy mode of life, and I know you've been really busy with work, what do you do to relax, or what do you love to do when you've got some time off?
Yeah. Um, Well, I schedule every day when I'm not on site with a client. I put it into my schedule to go for a walk for an hour. And I like going really fast and hard and going up hills and stuff. And so, you know, I get really you know, I come home and I'm, you know, breathing hard and, you know, the blood's pumping. And I find especially if I put it in the middle of the day, that like sets me up for the rest of the day. So, and I love it. I put my music on or I listen to a podcast. It's wonderful. I mean, like when I miss my walks, I feel it. Like I got to get my walk in tomorrow. So that's one thing. The
Okay.
other thing is that so I used to be an actress. That's what I went to college for. I got a theater and theology degree. So I guess I was thinking like televangelism, but then I was like, no, ew, I'm not doing that. Um, I was never seriously. That's a joke. Um, but
I know
those
that's a good joke, though. Yeah.
skills actually I use every day. I really do. So it's interesting. But yeah, so I moved to LA with a group of people from Second City, and we were going to have a sketch company, and you know we were in Chicago, and we decided we need to go to LA because that's where the work was. Long story short, I I used to get annoyed when my agent would call me for an audition when I was at work because I was the assistant to the CEO of a film company and I loved it. Oh my God, I loved it. Like the clean logic of accounting, you know? And that's probably when I knew I should probably not do the acting thing anymore. You know, I maybe I'll go do community theater one day, but I don't regret for 1 second the choice that I made because that CEO then took me with her when she started her own company. And I like to say I learned at the feet of a master. I mean, she didn't give me a fish; she taught me how to fish. So, so I
Mhm.
digress. I forget what your question was. I'm lecturing. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that was great. Actually, no, that was one of the funnest things that I know you and I talked about when we first met was because I went to school, college in Chicago, and we used to go down to Second City all the time.
Uh-huh.
And so I remember you and I were trying to figure out, okay, did we overlap? Did we see you
Did
while you
we?
were at
Yeah.
Second City?
Did we
So,
meet?
so
Yeah.
I was there for no, I think you had left before because I was there from 96 to 2000. So I think you left
I left in
before then.
98. So we might have overlapped somewhere.
We may have. We may
Where remind me where you
have.
lived in Chicago?
So I was, yeah, so I was at Concordia University in River Forest, Oak Park area.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Oak Park, Hemingway, right? It was still a dry town.
Anyway, no, well, maybe back then, but when we were in college, no. Well, you know what? I guess the bars were on the outside. No, 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 no. The bars weren't. Oh, no, it wasn't dry when I was there. I hadn't think about that. No, it wasn't dry when we were there. But
Ah,
that was the big town of Oak Park. It was also in River Forest. Were known for Al Capone too, because
yep.
that those were the homes that they built the tunnel underneath the houses to make their fast getaways. And the tunnels when I was in college were still active. Some of them were still open underneath some of the houses too.
I
So
love Chicago.
yeah,
I miss it. It's such an amazing city. It is such an amazing city. I really miss it. Uh,
I some of the best years of my life were in Chicago
yeah.
because we just
Yeah.
had so much fun and friends
Yeah.
were just
Yeah,
yeah,
I was
yeah,
with
absolutely.
my company of actors. We started our own company. We incorporated. We had our own theater, and I was engaged to the lead singer of a rock band during that like '90s like explosion in Chicago bands. Like the Pumpkins and Sublime
Yes,
and all of these other Liz
yes.
and so we had so much fun. I mean, it was great. And that's the other thing too is um, I had kids, and I think we bonded about this. I had my child late in life because I had stuff to do. Like
Mhm.
I was in that mindset. I was like, I want to live a life that I can make unilateral decisions, pretty much, and go do what I want to pursue. And sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I need to break out my ear horn when I'm at the student teacher meetings and stuff. Like, I'm just like, I feel like a grandmother. And what I have to remind myself is, um, I lived that crazy, fun, wild, frenzied, awesome life, before, and I had my own
Yep.
business, and I lived in LA and met lots of people, and found my husband there. My fiance cheated on me. Shocker. Lead singer of a band. Um,
Uh,
but it's
boo.
yeah, boo, boo to that. Um, but yeah, I mean, I have to remind myself that this is a choice I made essentially, and it's what I wanted. Even when I was little, I was like, I don't want to have kids right away because I have stuff I want to do. But it's tempting to get jealous of these young moms in their yoga pants and they're just have
I
energy.
know.
Yeah. Um,
Well, and I was going to say, I know, yes, we totally bonded over that because, dad's six. I had him when I was 40,
Yep.
married my husband when I was almost 37. And so you're right. Like I got to have fun because my husband will say, because he got married, when he was 19, 20,
Uh-huh.
and he's like, I was like, did you not ever do this? Or you don't know, you never saw that movie, or you didn't go here. And he's like, don't forget, while you were out doing your thing, I was raising the girls. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yep, you're correct.
Yeah.
Like I have to remember that,
Yeah. Yeah.
him and I walked different paths, but finally, found each other. But
Yeah.
you're right. Like I got to live and go see and go do. And,
Yeah.
it's just fun how God just kind of walks you through your path, you know?
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, that's so true. That's so true. Um, yeah,
Yes.
starting later has its maybe drawbacks in some ways, but it's also really
Mhm.
awesome. And those ladies that are wearing the yoga pants and energy for days now, when their kids are out of the house, then they can have their heyday. You know what I mean? Like, but maybe
Right,
we
right.
get two heydays since we had one before, and then when they leave, we'll have another heyday.
And that's what I'm thinking. That's how I look at it,
Yeah.
right? But no, I love that. So Neela, I always ask the last question. I always ask, okay, tell me a funny story or something fun about you while you that you can share with us about you growing up.
Growing up. Well, it might explain a lot of things, but my parents said that as a toddler, I fell down the stairs 17 times. And the first, 6 or 7, they freaked out. They were like, oh my God, she fell from the top to the bottom. Oh my God, is she okay? Um, by the eighth or ninth time, they were like, 8 at the table. They'd be just sitting at the table. I'd be like, 8. They'd hear me crying, and they'd go to me. And then I fell down the next time. They'd be like, 9. They just would count, and I swear to God, I don't know. Maybe it did do some brain damage, but I can't believe I did that and came out like alive. I have no idea how that
Well,
happened.
you know what that just tells me that that's how you got your bounce back factor and why you're so resilient and graceful under pressure because, what'd you say? I think it was like 17 times that you fell down the stairs
Yeah.
like that, head over
Mhm.
heels.
Yeah.
So that's how you develop all those amazing
I like
characteristics, my dear.
that. I like that so much. Yeah. Can I tell another quick story? This is this is me being really
Yeah,
vulnerable.
absolutely.
When I was doing the acting stuff, I was always like, I don't have time to be like eating ramen in the dark. Like, I'm going to have a job that pays me. And so I got this job at a Fortune 500 company in the Loop in Chicago, and I actually loved it. It was awesome. Um, but wearing a skirt and walking around the office, and the only person with the courage to tell me that my skirt was tucked into my pantyhose was this fabulous gay man. Like, all my other friends in the office didn't give me a heads up. I was like, oh my God.
Oh,
You just want the ground to open up and swallow you and just be done. When something like that happens.
right. Why do people do that? And that's why, like, if I ever see something, I want people to do the same thing to me because I don't want to be walking around looking like a big
Oh
goofball or
my God.
something.
At one of the Win Coffee and Connects, um, I was presenting a presenting sponsor, and when I do my makeup, I kind of pin my hair back with like just like claws kind of things. And I went to
Yeah.
my sponsor presentation with that, and I was talking with someone, Ginger Rains. I don't know if you know her; she's wonderful. And she goes,
No.
I like your barrettes. And I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. Like, I'd been standing there for like 10 minutes talking to people. And she was like kind
Yeah.
enough to tell me that I look like a fool.
Oh my goodness. See,
Yeah.
we all need good friends and good people around us to tell us
Oh
when
my
we do
gosh.
things
You
like
can't
that.
get
But
through.
Neela, I know. Well, Neela, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast with me. I always love our conversations together.
Me
So,
too.
everybody, this wraps up. Yes, I know. We're going to have to do it again and we're going to need to meet
I
up for coffee again.
know.
See,
An
everybody,
hour
do
is
your one
not
on
enough for us.
no, it is not. Absolutely not. But everybody, this wraps up and another empowering episode with Talk with Coach. I hope you found today's insights valuable and actionable. Go out, go network, go meet new people, be genuine, be yourself, and go have those one-on-ones. And remember, journey growth is a journey, and every step forward counts. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and to the YouTube channel for more inspiring content. And hey, I'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts, questions, or topic suggestions by reaching out to me on social media or through the website If you would like to schedule a one-on-one call with me to learn more about Southwestern Consulting's coaching program or our corporate training services, please click the link below to schedule your call. Until next time, keep striving for greatness, keep pushing your limits, and remember, your success story is waiting to be written. This is Becca Goldsberry signing off. Take care and make it a blessed day.